Thank you for staying with Channels Television. A warm welcome to Health Matters. I am Yomi Otaigbe. It leaves no visible mark on the human body, but its effects can be felt all over the body. Anemia can go undetected in many people, and that's why Health Matters Searchlight today is on the medical condition. A consultant hematologist who is also a lecturer at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, Dr. Femi Oyedeji, is my guest on the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
And I wish to say good afternoon to viewers at home.
All right, thank you. What's your description of anemia?
Okay, anemia, let me put it this way. Let me try and simplify it. The blood, as we know, it has cellular components and then the fluid components and a few other components. Now, the cellular components, there's the red blood cells, there's the white blood cells and the platelets, all mixing in the milieu of the plasma. Now, anemia is a reduction in the volume of the red blood cells. So, and that reduction is with a reference to the location of the person, with the sex of the person, the age of the person. So, what you call anemia here may not be anemia in the UK, for example. So, and then you can also define anemia as a reduction in the hemoglobin content of the blood. Hemoglobin content means that red cells contain hemoglobin, which is what carries the oxygen. So that's what drives oxygen around the body. So if the red cells are reduced, hemoglobin content is reduced, thus the oxygen carrying capacity of blood is reduced. As you aptly described earlier, that at times it shows no symptoms. I had a patient yesterday that had a PCV of 22%. Now, okay, let me first slow down. The reference value in our environment here, we take PCV of 30% and less as anemia.
Okay. Okay, maybe before we get to the PCV issues, what would deplete the red blood cells?
What will deplete red blood cells could be multifactorial. It could be one, a reduction in production of red cells. That means the body is just not producing enough. Two, it could be an increased destruction of red cells. That means body is producing, but something somewhere is happening and then the body is destroying the red cells. And then it could be bleeding. That means the person actually bled blood out. So those three things, there are different factors under each one. Like, let me give you increased destruction. Someone with sickle cell anemia, for example, is producing red cells, but instead of the lifespan of the red cells to be about 120 days, is far shortened to at times to about 30 days. So it's rapidly destroying red cells as it's producing. So for someone with sickle cell anemia, that is why it's a sickle cell anemia, because they are rapidly destroying. Then some, it could just be maybe someone who has a valve, a heart valve, a defective heart valve. As the red cells are passing through, they hit the valves and that breaks up the red cells. So that could happen. There's some people, like there's what we call match hemoglobinuria, in which case the person, someone who marches, like the soldiers, they march as they march, they actually destroy red cells as they are doing that. So many factors.
Okay, before you go on to the other factors, someone with sickle cell disorder can have anemia. What about malaria infections?
Yeah, it's basically the same process. The malaria parasite resides in red cells. So as it goes on, it leads to the destruction because the body sees the parasite in the red cell, and then it doesn't see the red cell as a normal red cell, so it tries to destroy it. So the body has an amazing capacity to try and compensate. So once it sees such defects, it tries to destroy it. So at times, that is what malaria causes. So there's an increased destruction of red cells.
Once there is infection of the red blood cells.
Yes.
Okay, now let's move to the anemia as a result of deficiency.
Okay, anemia, in fact, that is the most common cause of anemia, in the sense that some deficiency states, it could be nutritional deficiencies. Most common of which is iron deficiency. So in iron deficiency, ideally you should get iron from the diet.
What kind of diet?
Vegetables. But you see, the problem here is that we overcook almost everything, and then our food is not fortified. Like in the Western world, the food is fortified with almost everything. Fortified with iron, fortified with vitamins, fortified with folate. Here it is not. And then when we cook, we tend to overcook. So we destroy all these essential elements. So
perhaps you don't even get to eat them all the time.
Exactly. And then we do not have a supplementary habit, in which case a lot of people, is only when symptoms start to show before they take supplements. Ideally, most people, some tend to take supplements, and then you take supplements, and then you are taking you're taking things in that inhibits the absorption of those supplements. So those are the education that people need to know. Okay, this is so. As I said, iron deficiency, most common cause of anemia here. You see a lot of people. Once you look under the microscope, you see the cells are smaller, and then the indices are deranged. Let me just put it that way so that I don't get too complex.
Okay. I said earlier that anemia can go undetected. Sometimes the symptoms might be minor or even vague, and you may not really see it on the face. So how are we going to know that a person is anemic?
The symptoms may be minor in the sense that they feel tired, but they just think, okay, I've overworked. You look at the person, some actually see it and say, okay, you're looking pale, but the problem we have here is that people are not so health conscious, let me put it that way. So yes, even though it may go undetected, but the signs are there, the telling signs are there. So what should happen, what I expect is that we need to develop a culture of just checking, because a little thing, something as small as a PCV, which is a small lab test that can be easily done, is what can easily make one to diagnose
anemia. Let's see this picture on your screen right now. The eyes seem to be whitish or yellowish. I can't really say it now.
This is actually not checking for anemia.
Okay.
That is actually checking for jaundice.
Okay.
Because to check for anemia, what we do is that we check the lower conjunctiva.
Okay.
So you check the lower conjunctiva.
So you'll be checking the
yes, you pull
lower
down,
part.
Yes, the lower part, and then compare. You check the redness. So you check the lower conjunctiva, you check the palmar creases, you check the tongue, and then you check.
So if you look into the palms, you see that
it's not so sensitive in us blacks because we are dark. So, but what you expect, like in the whites, is that the creases, there is not much differentiation between the creases and then the other parts. But here, for us, it's the conjunctiva and the nail beds are more sensitive because, okay, with the nail bed, you press the nail bed and you see the refilling, if it's white or not.
I'm trying to check mine now.
Yeah, you just press the nail bed
and you see whether it's white or it's...
if it is the refilling, you're trying to see that, okay, you press it, does it refill as much? And then the palmar crease, yes, you tend to compare yours with the patient. That's what we thought, but it's difficult. Like, I'm a man, it's difficult to compare with a woman because our reference ranges are different.
Okay, so PCV check will be the gold standard.
PCV or hemoglobin.
Okay.
Yes, so you check the hemoglobin levels or the PCV levels.
PCV is the packed cell volume.
Okay. You check those two. That is, so there's a WHO standard that, okay, less than this, like, is less than 130 grams per liter in males, less than 120 grams per liter in females. That's why I said there's a reference range for males and females, because females...
Maybe people will relate more with the PCV. So if a female's PCV will be...
Here in our environment, we take 30% cutoff.
Okay.
So less than 30% cutoff here in our environment because...
the person is anemic.
Yeah, the person is anemic. We now say, okay, mild, moderate, severe, depending on how low it is.
Okay. And this, you said weakness is one of the very minor signs. What else can we look out for? Or we should all just get PCV or hemoglobin checked?
Well, what we do is that, okay, you see a doctor, he checks the conjunctiva, he fills your pill, and then he sends for either a PCV, or hemoglobin, or a full blood count. So with that,